Welcome to the 7th Octo final of the 24th International Christian University Tournament 2015. I'd like to congratulate both teams for making it to the out round. Just a reminder to the audience, please keep your phones on silent mode, not even vibrate, should be on silent mode. Please do not enter or exit the rooms in between speeches. If you wish to enter, wait until the speaker has finished speaking. Please keep all cheering, booing, insults, mockery, or otherwise to a minimum. My name is Rafiq. I will be chairing this Octo final. With me is Shinichi and Masahiro. Without further ado, before that, can we just get clarification on which motion are the teams vaccinating? Right. So, on the motion that this House, on the motion that in countries where vaccinations are mandatory, this House will criminalize vaccine denial. From Team Young Average Dinosaur, I'd like to invite Sho, the Prime Minister, to speak on the motion that stands.
We're going to contextualize this debate to a society, obviously, where vaccine in itself is already mandatory. So it's not a debate where we talk about whether it's mandatory, or whether it should be mandatory, or how it should be mandatory. The question we have to ask in today's debate is whether we should criminalize in the very context where vaccination in itself is already being mandatory. Every single citizen has to take the vaccination in the first place. But furthermore, we say that preventive measure in itself is something that is consistent to the role of criminal justice system. Rather, we say that not only reactive measure is a thing that criminal justice system should take in the first place. Second, we say that governments need to pick and choose policy based on efficiency and based on the result, right? Because we have to recognize that government already have a limited budget and limited capacity to begin with. What we have to recognize is the consequence of not using vaccination, right? Not using vaccination means that there's going to be a huge cost for the government to try to cure that disease if these people suffer from this debilitating disease. That's why actively preventing these measures in itself is extremely important when you consider that the cost in itself is not something that the government can always afford when there is already a limited budget and capacity for the government to take. Third, we said that what we're going to do on our side is very simple. We're going to criminalize all of the denial in public sphere. But what we are going to support on our side is obviously the government bodies checking on these measures. We're happy to have any kind of experiments or innovations still working on our side experimenting on whether these vaccinations will work, such as how to invent a new vaccination. We are more than happy to have any kind of critical scrutiny or check and balance into the measure of trying to create these new vaccinations. Also, we are happy to indicate any kind of discussion based on medical experts, right? So if these medical experts want to have discussion due to this vaccination and want to try and propose some policy to the government, we're happy to support on our side health. But what we're not supporting and what we deny on our side health is simply random individuals who suddenly come up onto the podium and tell to the public that this is something that's hugely bad, that there's a huge side effect when we consider that exclusively these vaccinations that we're talking about are already being proven to be hugely effective based on researchers, experiments, and medicine through trials and errors. That is already categorically being proven as something that is already proven as effective. What we're talking in today's debate is these things such as tuberculosis and hepatitis. When you consider that these consequences in itself is something that's huge, when you consider that vaccination is not used, these people will suffer harm that is irreversible. Essentially, we say this debate is a debate where we talk about whether these vaccinations, what exactly is the standard of criminalization, what exactly can be criminalized. We say that this vaccination denial, when publicly deny these concessions in itself, is something that can be criminalized. That's why we're standing on the affirmative. I'll talk about two issues in my speech. First, why on a principle level, the criminal justice system, the principle of preventive mechanism is consistent to the criminal justice system. Second, why exactly is the harm that we expect by not using or by having these vaccination denials in the case of public sphere is much more pernicious to the individuals on the ground. So first issues. We have to recognize that criminal justice systems do not only consider about reactive measure or retrospective measure, do not only consider about afterwards punishment or afterwards punitive measures, right? Because we have to recognize that preventive measure is already something that it actually does in the status quo. Why does criminal justice system do the preventive mechanism in the status quo? Because we have to recognize that if we simply let the harm go, there is going to be significant harm that the government cannot actually prevent, that the government should actually prevent. And when there is already a categorical harm that these government can actually foresee, the criminal justice system already simply trying to prevent these actions from happening. And that's why we say that for instance, in the case of if we randomly test drivers' alcohol, or in the case of when we ban hate speech, when we consider that there is going to be an incitement of violence toward the most disenfranchised and the vulnerable individuals on the ground, we do ban these things because when you consider that preventive measure in itself is something that this criminal justice system should do. Right? That's why, first of all, when the harm in itself is something that the gravity of the harm in itself is something that is hugely huge in itself, that actually cannot is something that actually is permanent. But second of all, when you consider that these people on the ground cannot actually take back, and when the government state in itself do not have a huge capacity to begin with, we say that criminal justice system should prevent the harm when the criminal justice system can foresee the harm in the first place. But second, let's talk about the harm, right? Because when we're talking in the context of mandatory, or when we're talking about vaccination being mandatory, we say this active denial in itself is something that's hugely detrimental. Who exactly is going to do these denials, right? Because we believe these people who are going to do this now in itself is going to be random organizations or random individuals who simply will give out scientific data. Why is this something that's extremely problematic? Because we believe that these people, like the concession or any kinds of denial in itself, will simply try to blur the public citizens or blur the uninformed citizens in the society of deciding what exactly is more truthworthy and what exactly is right. This is extremely traumatic, right? Because let's look at the scientific data that these people were simply trying to tell the whole society, right? They were simply trying to tell the side effect. They were simply exaggerate and nitpick on specific parts of the flaw that may exist, or that may or seemingly exist in these vaccination, right? This is extremely traumatic when you consider that these nuances in itself were simply trying to blur and trying to confuse the citizens on the ground. It conveys a social message to the society that this is something that that citizen in itself should not use. But the fact is, we have to recognize that side effect in itself exists in any medicine, right? We have to recognize that the medicine and the vaccination will be actually mandatory, coerce these individuals to use, is something that has a hugely minimized, or like 0.1% of the side effect in itself, right? That's why these medicine itself is something that is already proven to be hugely effective. That's why we say that these random scientific data in itself is something that's hugely problematic when the public in itself will simply be swayed by these random concessions, right? Yes.
So if individuals, even though they know these scientific effects, would opt into situations such as religious and traditional methods, would you take them as irrational citizens who would not respect their choice?
First off, we have to recognize that the context that we're talking about is mandatory, right? Which means that the state already considers lots and lots of minority, lots and lots of concession that already exists in the society. But nonetheless, does actually consider that as something that's mandatory, should be coerced to citizens when you consider that the consequence in itself is something that's huge, such as suffering from tuberculosis. You cannot actually cure that disease with an easy process at any cost. That's why they say already mandatory, right? But let's look at the harm more to the stakeholders, right? Because first of all, we have to recognize that the people who deny these things are not accountable to anyone, right? They simply have the freedom of doing whatever they want in the status quo, which means that they're able to simply attack to the most emotional, most vulnerable part, to simply try to target to the general fear of the people of how their bodies will be used, right? But second, we have to recognize that there are certain individuals, such as parents, making a choice, right? When the parents make this choice of not using this vaccination, that is based on this huge random concession that came from this public random organization, it actually goes to the harm of the children's health, right? We have to recognize that the vulnerable and the innocent children's health is also endangered in the status quo when you consider that this emotional movement in itself is something that not only exists to one actor, but also exists to another actor when the children actually trust these parents in the first place. So first of all, these individuals who may have rational consent will be harmed when you consider that these consequences in itself is something that's true. But second of all, we have to recognize that there are certain vulnerable innocent citizens who actually trust these stakeholders, but make these choices that will suffer the harm. So that's something that the state should prevent as the criminal justice system to make these preventive measures. We're extremely proud to propose.
Yeah, 7 minutes enough. Thank the Prime Minister for that speech. To begin the debate on the negative bench, I'd like to invite Kim Jae-lee from Team Goo-Kyom to give a speech.
So before moving to our argument, firstly we want to give several rebuttals what the PM said in his debate. Firstly, we want to talk about the cost issue because government so emphasizing about efficiency issue and result issue and also cost issue. We want to argue about this kind of thing. The cost itself cannot justify limit freedom of a person. like freedom of expression at the end, which will elaborate in my argument. Then not to choose taking vaccine. Still, even if vaccine exists, result can be harmful. Let's think about like flu vaccine or other kind of vaccine. Still, harm can exist at the end, at the future. That we cannot know anything else. What will occur at the future. It means like in our case, yeah, both can have harm at the end. But also we can think citizens also pay for the burden of cost by those kind of things, by corporation insurance and also expanding to the hospital. It means citizens are already paying for the burden, the cost they can make. And also we can say therefore we can say no reason to harm freedom to deny those kind of vaccine choices. And also, Prime Minister mentioned about proven issue, but it will be elaborated in my argument, and we have to see the context first. Like, proven safe itself is not 100%. Like, when we see the status quo, when medicine brought up to the society, when they fulfill or satisfy certain level of safety tasks, then we can say it is proven safe. So publicized as safe. But so it always can have side effect issue. Or some kind of people can make allergic problem when they use vaccination. Or other kind of side effect always exists. Therefore, those kind of proven issue is a little bit controversial, and it will be more elaborated in our argument. And also, we want to talk about active denial problem, what PM brought up to this debate. Like he said about it could blur informative people and uninformative people at the end. But we think that those kind of confusion is not the bad thing or worst thing. Why? We can say it is different way. We can say in different way. This kind of confusion can make criticism upon some safety issue. Always controversial discourse occurs when we talking about something kind of issue. So we can say conflict itself is the best way to improve problem, and it can be the only true option to develop alternatives. So we can say government side eliminate and neglects all the importances of fruitful discourse could occur at the end. Lastly, we want to talk about innocent children can follow irrationally. But no, they are based on the assumption that all kind of their parents will follow those kind of opinion that vaccine denial. But no, why is this so? If medicine corporation or government prove it as safe, then those kind of denial action will be based on minor portion of the society. It means rationally those kind of parents can choose rationally, then therefore we cannot say all kind of children will follow the opinion of those kind of people, those kind of groups. Directly moving on to our argument. No, thank you. Firstly, we have to talk about freedom of expression. And secondly, we have to talk about why criminalization itself is unjustifiable in this case. Firstly, freedom of expression. How vaccine denier matches with freedom of expression. Firstly, they have reasonable reason. Why? People could have skepticism upon vaccination drugs even if it has 100% safety. Because body and health itself wholly controlled by human itself, and also ultimate decision wholly depend on human intention when we talking about body and health. That's why we so-called it as bodily autonomy. So if person couldn't believe its efficacy, then let's imagine the case scenario. If the pharmacy corporation before had problem, for example, like side effect revealed after release in the market, therefore they have reasonable reason to deny those kind of vaccination, even if it is proven safe or effective. So we can say it is based on freedom of expression. And it means they're just suggesting new perspective to the society, even if medicine has 100% safety now. Secondly, medicine itself always have to write possibility of side effect. Even if it has extreme small possibility in the medicine case. For example, vitamin C beverage or omega, something like those kind of things have to write about the side effect, even if it has like 0.5% or other kind of thing. So if a person want to emphasize on this kind of point and want to announce, but it has reasonable reason and it does not harm to others' freedom, and also it could give benefit by giving criticism towards society. Therefore, we cannot have any justification to deter those kind of freedom. So let's talk about why freedom of expression is so important to our society. In the social level, like we have to see the characteristic of the pharmaceutical corporation. They're firstly profit seeker, and they always have incentive to hide or less emphasize the side effect. Therefore, based on the freedom of expression, it could give more benefit to the society. Secondly, in the individual level, like people can do what they want to do, and no thank you. People. The happiness is based on the pure intention or free will. When people do what they want to do, it's directly leading to the happiness. Therefore, when we just deny those kind of freedom of expression, do not harm any other's freedom, we will just discriminate or giving more unhappiness to the people. Lastly, we have to talk about why criminalization itself is so unjustifiable. Firstly, we have to see the condition of the criminalization. Criminalization have to consider about ill intention and ill action. Let's talk about ill intention. Does this kind of action have ill intention? No. Why is it so? Like their intention is to secure themselves or secure families, their own families, or their friends, or other citizens. Let's think about like medical surgery accident issue. Like even if patient allowed in surgery agreement, if medical accident occur or his or a patient's family publicly denounces those kind of process detailedly, and also they can publicize the dangerous process or dangerous possibility of the medical process at the end in this status quo. So we do not criminalize this because they do not have any ill intention and they do not make justification to criminalize themselves. For the reason I'm very proud to.
Thank the Leader of Opposition for that speech. To continue the debate on the proposition bench, I'd like to invite Goo-Kyom to give a speech.
Mr. Speaker, it was very funny when they came up and said you can't know the harms because proven safe doesn't necessarily mean 100% safe, right? It tells you right from the very beginning why this is not the debate. We're talking about a context where mandatory vaccination already is in place, and the debate is about whether in that context denial should be criminalized or not. This debate isn't about whether we should revoke the mandatoriness of that, and therefore his first part of the speech doesn't necessarily stand in debate. It's got no relevance. But secondly, they said it's going to be problematic when you take away the criticism that could exist. But we already told you as well through our model why criticism can exist under our scenario as well. Because let's clarify what we support and what we do not support. We support from our side of the house medical experts using channels with the government to have check and balance, to try and create better vaccines, to inform the government its side effects and so on. And then the government can have policy reviews and so on to make sure that a proper vaccine is used and whatnot, right? What we are opposing in our side of the house is the publicness of this happening, of these medical experts going into public, or random individuals, random organizations existing in public and voicing out to the public general public. And that's what we oppose in this debate. Therefore, the discourse doesn't necessarily need to happen in a public sphere in order for the check and balance that they want to achieve on their side to exist, and that still exists under our side when you can have a much more efficient way of policy review happening, rather than have in random laymen in society making that choice and trying being swayed on an emotional basis. Then they said freedom of expression. But we tell you right from the very beginning that freedom of expression is something that is not absolute value in society. We already do limit it to a certain extent. It is restricted in many ways when you can foresee harms happening through the expression itself. That's why in certain areas you're not allowed to depict like certain images or certain images that are deemed to be offensive, or you're not allowed to have hate speech laws in place, because we recognize the fact that even if individuals have the right to express, when that right counters against another person's right, or when that when that right also causes damage or significant harm to the public in general, then we have society already banning expressing that right in the first place, right? And therefore we need to again consider what we're talking about in terms of denial. Because the way they try to characterize it is to say it's new perspective. It's just nice people coming up with new material and say, these are the bad effects and therefore you should not do so. That's not the case, and denial happens in a much more negative manner, right? The way it's done is that they pick up on certain aspects of these vaccines and pick up in a way that creates a favorable discourse for them. They say this is something that has these side effects and that's why you should not do so. And they neglect all the benefits that they can have in terms of tuberculosis, in terms of Hep C, in terms of all these diseases that exist. The way they do so is by picking up on certain issues, and we think that then becomes problematic because the end goal of these denial is to make sure that people do not use this and to make sure that people stay away from it. And recognizing the fact that these denial and the people who do denial is not accountable to anyone, I think that then becomes problematic. Because when you consider the fact that the people who are on the receiving end of this discourse are normal people who don't necessarily have enough scientific knowledge to be able to judge what is the correct information, what is the wrong information, and have the ability to see and make their rational judgment on that effect as well, I think it becomes problematic also when they do not have full scientific disclosure. And when the receiving end is, in most cases, parents of young children and parents who are likely to be very protective of their children and who are likely to look into the potential harms and overplay that harms in the mind, when these discourse plays into the emotional aspect of the receivers, I think that it becomes problematic. Because these parents are a lot susceptible because of their inexperience in terms of raising children, in terms of family planning and all that, and therefore they're likely to err on the side of caution when you have these denials happening, picking up on certain side effects, saying it could cause harms, then it creates a scenario where the parents and the receiving end are more likely to buy into that scenario and then go against the mandatoriness and then go against creating that public safety, even if these vaccines have been scientifically proven to be effective and safe. That discourse in itself and the existence of discourse in itself is something that the parents and the people on the receiving end are going to prioritize a lot more. Recognizing that those are the harms that then comes about through the discourse happening, through this free expression happening, I think this is also an area where we can go about to limit this freedom of expression. We already told you right from the very beginning that the criminal justice system can also exist in a preventive measure as well, and not only in a reactive measure in cases when we're also willing to punish them if they do come up, but we already try and prevent these cases from happening because we recognize that the harms of these things happening is going to be very problem. The final argument that came was to say, but you have people voicing out against medical waste as well, and that's trying to say it's the same thing. But it's not necessarily the case, because for medical waste and medical procedures, it's not necessarily mandated by the government, and therefore you have a very limited number of people who are affected in comparison to this, where it affects the whole society and whole populace in general. Moreover, we need to recognize the fact that we're talking about parents making a choice, but they're not necessarily making a choice about their own health, but rather they're making a choice about their children's health and about an actor who is caught in between, who is innocent, whose health is going to be controlled completely by parents, and by the parents making this choice based on emotions in itself. I think that this is something which also becomes problematic when you have children not taking up the option of vaccines, when children are the ones going into a school environment where they have many interactions, where they have a lot of closeness, a class of 30, 40 people, when you have a number of people without taking vaccinations, it creates a conducive environment for these transmissions to occur in a very easy way. Therefore, when you recognize that these tangible harms are probable and are very likely to happen, I think it's something that the government must enforce, must make sure that they prevent these from happening. Recognizing the fact that we're talking about governments that already mandate vaccines, it's the reason why they do so is because they recognize their role in society to ensure the health and safety of each individual. When you have an organization or individual within society that try and derail the government from actively pursuing that role, then that the government should be taking an active opposition against it to make sure that their fundamental role of creating a healthy society, of protecting individuals and preventing the spread of of these diseases is something that the government must do, and that's a fundamental role a government has. What we told you from our side of the house is as follows. We told you firstly, while this denial is fundamentally opposing to the discourse and the role and the purpose of government and trying to create a safe society, but how it affects the mindset of individuals who are on the receiving end, unique individuals who are likely to be buying into the emotional aspect, and that for those reasons, recognizing criminal justice system can also be preventive. I think that this is something that we need to do.
I thank the Deputy Prime Minister for that speech. Continuing the debate on the negative bench, I'd like to invite the Deputy Leader of Opposition, Dong Kwak.
Mr. Speaker, we'd like to make our stance clear that when it comes to vaccine denial, every denial is not only because of an ill intent. We believe there are vaccine denials that are made from pure intentions and pure criticism, healthy criticism. That is why we celebrate it. And we believe when it comes to criminalization, only ill intent must be punished. That is why we believe those criticisms with pure intent must not be criminalized because of that core value. Now, a few rebuttals. When it comes to this, they say that those vaccines are scientifically proven safe. When it comes to safe, and we believe there is no 100% safety. We believe in some cases vaccines may have side effects, and people having fear of that mere 1% of that side effect is also a rational fear, and also we celebrate that fear, and we believe that we cannot criminalize them for that fear, and that is what we are going to tell you today. And also they said that only discussions about concerning vaccines will be made by only medical experts. When it comes to this, we believe that they are suggesting that we need to restrict those discussions only for the qualified people, which means that then political decisions only have to be made by political majors like myself. Because we believe when it comes to discussions, we believe it has to be open to everyone, not only about qualified people, not only with fancy PhD degrees, but only laymen like us must be able to participate in that discussion, and we believe that they are not doing that. No, thank you. And also, we believe that when it comes to people, people have the right to make and state irrational statements and believe them. For example, the case of religion, the case of psychics. Rational people make rational decisions and calculations and make an irrational choice to opt in to that irrational system. And we believe that those choices must be respected as much as the rational choices they talked about, because there was a rational choice of opting into that irrational choice. And also, they have made a very big assumption and very big characterization that people are not rational. And when it comes to that, we do not think so. They say that parents, because of their inexperience, because they're not smart enough of those doctors, they're going to be swayed by by ill-intended vaccine denial and make emotional decisions. But we differ. We believe that parents are also rational and smart enough to make smart decisions. That is why we believe it is the government's role to inform that vaccines are really safe and persuade them, not enforcing them. We believe that persuasion is something that democracy is standing for, not enforcing everything because the government thinks it's right. So that is why we believe it is the role of the government to inform that vaccines are really safe to the extent that the parents will be persuaded and opting into the systems voluntarily, not enforcing them. And also, when it comes to information, we believe that information like false information that they so fear about is not going to be viral as much as the government or the doctors' PR about. That is why I believe when it comes to governments or pharmaceutical companies, their PRs, their advertisements will be bigger and larger in degree because governments have a larger power of spreading those messages. Those information will be larger than the false information that may be in the system. That is why we believe if it's a parent, then they're going to make a very rational choice. They're going to be cautious, evaluate every information, and then make the choice that they so desire. And even if that case, and they decide not to have vaccines and tell people, publicly deny vaccines, we are clearly fine with that because it was a rational choice. No, thank you. No. What have you told you? In the case of the legal decision, we have told you why criminalizing vaccine denial must not happen. Now, when it comes to criminalization, there are two yardsticks. First, mens rea, second, actus rea, which is ill intent and ill action. But we agree that in some extent, vaccine denial could be an ill action that have harms to society. But when it comes to ill intent, which is the core value of whether you're going to make this person liable for his action, we believe that there could be pure intent of vaccine denial, and that is why we believe that criminalizing vaccine denial must not happen. Now, when it comes to people who deny vaccine, then we can divide them into two groups. The first group is the one who has ill intent, who has the intent to harm everyone else by putting out false information. But we believe there are people who have pure intent. What is that pure intent? That pure intent is the intent of fear and fear of side effects. As we told you, not every medication is 100% perfect. There is no medication or vaccine that has 0% of side effects. Which means that those people who have fear for that side effect, that fear that there might be the 1% who may have the side effect, then they may have rational fear. And we believe that fear, the fear that I may be harmed, the government and the criminal justice system respects that fear. Where can we see this case? We see this case in the case of self-defense, and where we respect individuals' fear that if they fear that they might be harmed by everyone else, or their family, or their friends may be harmed, then they can actively do something, and it's not going to be prosecuted or criminally liable because it was the pure intent of the fear that they had. That is why we believe when we criminalize vaccine denial, we all, as they say, they may have the chance of prosecuting or criminally making liable those people with ill intent liable, and we are fine with that. But the fact that those pure people who have pure intent of making those statements may be criminally incarcerated, and if we do that, then the liberal democracy, which says that when it comes to justice, you pay for your leave, and if you did not do anything wrong, then you should not go to prison. That fundamental core value of criminal justice system is going to be broken. That is why we believe that harm is much bigger of a harm than they pursue, that they try to draw to you. And also, we would like to talk about bodily autonomy. We believe that when it comes to everyone, they have the bodily autonomy to refuse treatments and whatnot. We see the case of cancer patients. When they die, they can refuse treatment, they can refuse respiration, they can refuse CPR. That is why, because the government does respect every person's bodily autonomy, that is why we believe if someone does not want to have vaccination or doesn't want their children or friends or family not to have vaccination, then they can publicly deny it. And we're fine with that because the government should respect that bodily autonomy that the state was made of protecting it. That is why we believe when it comes to the end of the day, we are the ones who's going to serve justice. We are going to save the ones who are going to be incarcerated innocently in their case of the scenario. That is why we believe we take this debate home. Thank you.
Thank the Deputy Leader of Opposition for that speech. To end the substantive part of the proposition's case, I'd like to invite the Government Whip Speaker, Goo-Kyom, to give his speech.
On one hand, what they say is the 1% of the fear of the 1% side effect may be irrational. irrational, but we can celebrate it. On the other hand, they say people are rational, so therefore they can make the right decision about it, and therefore parents will not be swayed by the emotional rulings or emotional playing of these organized groups that we on the proposition side talked about. Two things in this debate that we want to deal with from the prop side. Number one, how do we weigh the costs and the benefits of freedom and infringement from the government side? Number two, we're going to talk about who has the worst intentions, if we can actually talk about whether intention can be pure or evil, right? So firstly, let's go to the question of cost versus freedom. The main question that you want to ask here is who bear those costs if we allow people to have the freedom of not vaccinated and therefore denying the effectiveness of vaccination, even if when it's scientifically proven. Number one, so who? What the opposition side has said is that people should be free, and based on their own decisions, they should pay the cost of their freedom. What we say is here that individuals retroactively have to pay and do not foresee the cost on the national level, and their individual calculus does not take into society as a whole. Number two, we think that when it comes to diseases, you don't know unless you have a lot of medical professional knowledge about what exactly the harm of a disease is, what is exactly how fast it can spread, and what it exactly does to your body, and how it can actually be cured or treated, or if it can't be. Right? We think that when it comes to things like hepatitis C or things like tuberculosis, have a long-term effect that's damaging to your body, and you don't know whether you have it as a child or not, and the only way to be safe from it is to be vaccinated so that the viruses do not settle down in your body in the long term. We told you from the government side of the house that the government has always a right to balance out their policies, especially because their resources are limited, especially because not all countries are rich. If you had multiple hospitals all around every single region, if you had multiple multi-billionaire pharmaceutical companies that actually compete in order to make the drugs cheap, right? In those cases, possibly maybe so. But if you don't have that, if you're a developing nation, and if your government suffers from resources, not just in the medical arena, but in also a lot of the severe cases and also in terms of managing budget, right? Then we think that vaccination is not only a cheap way to go, it's an effective way to go, especially if it's scientifically proven. They never responded to our case, right? What they've only said is that, hey, people have religious freedom. Hey, people should have bodily autonomy. We say that's not necessarily true, because even in the case we optimize freedom and we go for freedom and prioritize freedom, still states should balance their policies out. Like the case of Korea, you guys have to go to the mandatory military service in 2 years, right? Because we cannot pay for all men to be free, and we cannot pay for voluntary services. We think that's a hardcore issue here, and we think that when it comes to public security, not just in terms of military terms, but also in health, where endemics can actually cause huge amounts of problems, not just financially, but also to the medical arena, also in terms of health, and that kind of impact can be cross-generational, then we say that the government does actually and should actually intervene. Secondly, what we said about who bears the cost is that the biggest bearer of the cost in this case is the children, not the parents who decide that the vaccines shouldn't be given. We think it's a parental decision, but the risk is at the child's health, and the child has no say in this particular decision. So we don't think it's not about the irrationality of children following their parents' model, like the opposition has said. That's not the debate or the point that we brought up from the proposition side. What we've said is that when the parents have certain religious or personal beliefs and certain religious values, we think that when it comes to scientific proof, when it's proven to be effective and measurable, and when it's proven, and when the government thinks that it's mandatory, can the government rule over the parent's decision or not? We say yes, because when you want a functional citizen, when you want the child to grow up as a functional citizen with well-educated and healthy in both body and mind, we think that the government sometimes do overrule. Where do you see the cases of that? I think we always teach, or we try to teach, right, evolutionism in public schools, because if we leave it to only the parents who are only religious may only teach about creationism, and when the child goes out to society, if he or she doesn't know about evolutionism, we think that's pretty much very much a detrimental harm, that they don't know a critical fact about the society that they live in, or the scientific beliefs or this society is structured upon. We think that when they talk about bodily autonomy in cancer patients, we think it's ridiculous because we told you about children. Cancer patients bear their own cost because it's at their own risk and at their own health. We don't think that the bodily autonomy argument stands in this case. So let's go on to the second thing. They talk about evil intentions and good intentions through mens rea and actus rea. Look, mens rea and actus rea is the standard to differentiate murder and manslaughter rather than the standard to differentiate pure intentions, whatever that is, and evil intentions, whatever that is. We think that standard in and of itself, coming from the opposition side of the house, was very vague to begin with. But let's see, right? So who has evil intentions? We told you from the very beginning that we would allow for scientific discourse to happen anyway. We'd allow for policy reviews to happen anyway. And we're pretty much happy when medical journals print out stuff that may counter-argue the efficacy of the vaccines that we have. Because viruses always, evolve, and we don't exactly know what happens in the future, like they've said. But the thing is, when you have religious groups and personal beliefs, there are differences between medical journals and organized groups. Because when you look at the credibility of their arguments, we think that there's a problem with saying, or there's a problem of how you nuance these things. They argue that pharmaceutical companies have to emphasize or have to actually note that there's a 0.5% chance of getting a headache from a certain pill or whatever side effect, even if it's a 0.5% chance. And we're completely fine with that. The problem is when you say there's a side effect and not tell about the 0.5%. We think that's the problem that they never answer. But what was their only response? Their only response is that people are rational. When we've told you significantly that these religious groups and these cultures may have these cultural groups or religious groups or individuals may have their own political social agenda. We think that when religious groups play to the emotional aspects of parents, especially new parents dealing with newborn babies, when vaccination is critically important because you have to actually vaccinate children before they grow up or before their entire system settles down, and there are certain time periods where only when vaccinations can only be effective at that certain time period at point of your body. We think that's really, really important and crucial. Nothing that has from the proposition side has dealt with that. But last and not most of all, even if we take all of those points into account, by the point that you deny public trust, by the point you harm public trust by denying vaccination, we think that's a significant harm to the public society, and therefore we win this debate.
Thank you, Governor Wood Speaker, for that speech. To conclude the negative case as well as the substantive part of this debate, I'd like to invite John Won, Alex Choi, the opposition Wood Speaker, to give a
First thing, Mr. Speaker, shame on government to use example of military and all officials should be going to the military. We think, Mr. Speaker, today's clashes will be very simple. First, in the levels of principle of how even cases of irrational fear of people are not the malicious intents and even the faults of these normal citizens at the first place. And secondly, even cases of rational men of having certain intentions to actually say something in the public are also must be respected means of principle level. Secondly, we'd like to talk about practical analysis of how, in general society, opposition suggests are far more better means of government, but minor rebels. Firstly, we think the distinguish between pure and malicious intent is pretty much clear. We think, Mr. Speaker, in pure intent, when an individual actually believes in a certain belief, the fact that some method, although they are something maybe scientifically proven, are beneficial for say, an individual, and to extend to that to actually have freedom of expression, to say it out loud in the public is totally fine. We think, therefore, those intentions are pure intentions that we must respect in a liberal democratic society. However, Mr. Speaker, malicious intents, regardless of thinking about public health, regardless of how this is supposed to be, just like the action itself is the original intent to harm the general citizens, is a malicious intent we should not, in parts of opposition model, to not respect in parts of individual trust. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, the analysis of using security in means of general security and to have an analysis parallel example as health is different. We think, Mr. Speaker, generally as security itself, because when one individual actually has trouble levels of security, we think that loophole actually leads to a general problem of security, because of the fact that security itself is a chain system that actually even one fault will actually lead to a general chain and a domino effect on the general society. We think, Mr. Speaker, that example like tuberculosis, when one individual does not have the vaccination, when others do, we think that harm is not upon the general society itself, because of the fact that vaccination only itself proves a minimum actually does not have other serious impacts and domino effects on other individuals. Moving on to clashes. Firstly, Mr. Speaker, it means in arguments of irrationality, when people have irrational fear in general possibility, and even questioning the science scientifically, when the drugs are actually proven to be scientific, is actually our possible means of today's society. We think, Mr. Speaker, irrational fear of certain people is never their fault, because we actually prove the means of legal opposition, that vaccination and means of governmental justification has never been the rate of 100%. We thought, Mr. Speaker, for example, when in the case of DDT wars, we thought it was a good example, so everyone started using it. Everyone started even using it on themselves, thought it would actually killing like bad viruses off themselves, which actually lead to a future circumstance that it was actually proven to be bad in the future situations. And these are irrational fears actually can have happened because of the fact that government has been, in some situations at the past, were faulty in some situations, Mr. Speaker. So we think in current situation that even a 0.5 possibility and the irrational fear coming from that is totally justified because of these individuals. We think the argument that Yuki came about of having how like their parents are having these decisions in the first place also are included in this argument. Because we think, Mr. Speaker, if there's 1,000 sons or 1,000 parents, and if one son actually, even though they received this vaccination and then received a certain like a flu, we think that medicine and that individual's irrational perspective to believe the fact that although they are not rational enough to say that 900, although there are 999 people who actually received the vaccination and did not get the flu, for that individual parent, it is his son that the government said the vaccination was okay, but then accordingly they still got the flu itself. We think, Mr. Speaker, that individual, the rational calculus that government talks about does not make sense, because in levels of individuals, because we actually proved you how the possibility is never 100%, we think that irrational fear for individuals will always exist, and it's not government's justification to say that it's wrong for individuals because it's not their fault in the first place. We think, Mr. Speaker, in second level analysis, even in cases where people do make rational choices, should be respected in today's society. Firstly, we'll extend this by having the argument of bodily autonomy and connect that to how that leads to freedom of expression. We think, Mr. Speaker, people that even if the efficacy of that drug is 99.99%, still government cannot impose citizens to be the men of science, Mr. Speaker. We think using the yardstick of science actually imposing on people who actually make value judgments, and for example using like traditional methods, for example using religious beliefs as their yardstick, and government imposing men of science is wrong. Because imposing that science, Mr. Speaker, the Bible and Christ is so Holy Mary actually, in that sense, it becomes to be like a law for that. We think, Mr. Speaker, in German society, we think governmental model using science as the yardstick and actually not respecting individual choices, even though our leader opposition well fully explained the fact that individuals' rational choice to opt into a system of rationality should be proven in today's status quo. Well, thank you. So with that bodily autonomy argument proved, we think, Mr. Speaker, that leads to freedom of expression and how generally people should be able to say what is right or wrong, what kind of decisions they can make, and actually publicly say that out loud in the public. We think individuals, regardless of the cause, the fear of side effect, religious belief, and traditional methods, has their rights to believe in what you think is right, and the extension of this is freedom to express this out in the public, Mr. Speaker. Even though the drug is 99.99% accurate, we think individuals has a right to take that this method, although that may be scientifically correct, that our God proves this right, our traditional method somehow actually proves better efficacy, is an individual freedom that actually does make consensus. We think, therefore, in this case, even in if they actually have the premise of individuals being rational, we think that in that case it's also actually possible, and actually it is respectable to say that even if people are influenced by these choices, these are choices individuals make that actually do believe that this is best for their own interests, and we think it's wrong to say that government should impose what is right or wrong by simply using one yardstick to prove all of them wrong. We think, Mr. Speaker, the second clash of having practicality is also proven this book. We think the government's public harm of that they impose in today's debate is probably very minimal. We think the causative effect, firstly, is weak because of the fact that we actually prove you that no vaccination is equal to flu, has been proved in parts of today's opposition's case. Secondly, even if they are diagnosed, harm the government suggests, or Mr. Speaker, and has maximally more people just simply getting flu. And we think that's not a big of a problem in today's society. We think the public harm that opposition suggests is far more detrimental when firstly individual choice to say what is right to wrong for their own interests is not being respected in today's society, and how eccentric that of freedom of expression, of how believing, what kind of bodily autonomy, what kind of choice best suits for you and what you think is right for the society should be imposed by their individual rights of freedom, bodily expression, which is basic human rights that are supposed to be met in a liberal democratic society, and governmental yardstick should never judge what is right or wrong. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, we are proud to oppose.
I thank the opposition whip speaker for that speech. That concludes the substantive part of the debate. To start the summative part of the debate, I'd like to invite the vice speakers from both teams, starting with the opposition reply, which will be given by the Deputy Leader of Opposition, Dr. Clark.
Mr. Speaker, let's take a step back from this debate and let's see what really happened on today's debate. So we believe that today's debate is mainly about this. Which side better balances public health and the principles of justice? And we believe that we do have that balance, and that is why we take this debate forward. Now let's look at some of the aspects of today's debate. The aspect of freedom of expression and bodily autonomy. Now when it comes to the government side, they say that they're going to limit discussions only to medical experts. And we have proven to you that that is detrimental and that is not what liberal democracy is all about. We have told you that when it comes to discussions, not only people with qualifications, people who are the people that are in state, for example, laymen like us, people like us, normal people who have to get that vaccination, has to have a say in the process of whether enforcing it or criminalizing it. That is why we believe it is very irresponsible for the government only to restrict discussions to qualified people. And also, we have told you that when it comes to bodily autonomy, those countries cannot really, states cannot enforce treatment that goes against bodily autonomy. And second, about rational choice. We have proven to you that when it comes to fear, even though they try to portray fear itself as very irrational, we have proven to you that fear itself could be rational. Because the fact that there could be a side effect, that only mere 1% of a side effect could be read by an individual or interpreted by an individual, that they may be that 1%, then that fear itself could be a rational reason to opt out of having vaccination. And also, we have proven to you that there are cases where governments were wrong in that every vaccination or medication was safe. The case of DDT that we have told you. That is why it is very rational for the individuals to have fear that they may get that side effect, the fear that the government may be wrong. That is why that fear is legit and a pure intent. That is why it can't be criminalized. That is why we have told you the principles of criminal justice system. When it comes to criminal justice system, we have told you that only two things matter: ill intent and ill action. Ill intent. When it comes to ill intent, we have proven to you that people who have fear, that fear itself is very pure intent, which means that they do not have the intent to harm anyone else. That intent, that fear itself, is the fear that they might be in trouble, that they might be having that side effect. That is why we believe that it is justifiable that people may have that fear. And that is why we believe that justice system, the criminal justice system, cannot criminalize people with that pure intent. Because the reason why justice exists, the justice system exists, is to provide justice and deliver justice. And we believe that incarcerating people who have rational fear is not what we call justice. And also, we have and the yardsticks. We have proven to you that not every people have to be this man of science. We have proven to you there are people who believe in religion, who believe in psychics, who believe in other things than science. And we believe that was a rational choice that they made to opt into that irrational system, and we believe that should be respected. And also when it comes to efficacy, Dwayne was sneaky into putting the characterization that vaccines only work when you're very young. That characterization came very, very late. That is why I can't say they cannot really justify the efficacy because it came too late. And also, even though the efficacy problem could be a problem, we believe that they cannot really justify the society limiting freedom. If you really care about efficacy, not go to democracy, go to dictatorship. That is the most efficient system that they want to pursue because they only care about efficacy at the end of the day. So at the end of the day, we better balance public health. We better serve justice to society. That is why we want this debate. Thank you.
The opposition reply speaker to that speech. And I invite Yuki to give the government reply and end the debate.
Although we agree that individual freedom is important to a certain extent, we told you right from the very beginning that it's not absolute when it's juxtaposed with the public safety, which we told you is much more important than individual freedom. So this debate comes down to a couple of things. Number one, what is vaccine denial in the first place, right? We saw that these are active denial of the safety and the efficacy of these vaccines in the first place, and the end goal of these movements is to stop people from using it, regardless of the intent, whether it's good or it's bad. That's the end goal that these people have. The method that they have also, which wasn't necessarily contested by that side of the house, is they don't have full disclosure of the effects. They only pick up on side effects in order to create a favorable discourse towards them, in order to nudge people or to drive people to not use it. And we also told you how these are individuals or organizations that are not accountable to anyone and therefore have the ability to run free, and also done in a very aggressive manner. The way they tried to tackle this was to say, but hey, it's a new perspective which is important for discourse. And secondly, they said, but there are also cases, some cases when they have pure intent, without necessarily telling us why that pure intent overrides the cases of malicious intent, recognizing the fact that the end goal of these people is to make sure that people stop using it and nothing else, right? But moreover, even if everyone had pure intent, we told you from our side of the house why this is something that shouldn't exist in the first place, right? Because we need to understand who are the receivers of the message and how they react in terms of these discourse happening in society. So that the majority of the cases of the receivers are parents who are caring of their child, who are unexperienced and who don't actually have the ability, the layman that they told us, who don't have the ability to judge what is the correct information and what is not the correct information, uniquely in cases where these corporations or governments and also these organizations and individuals are picking up on certain side effects and so on. When you have an overflow of these information happening in society, I think that these parents who are careful are more likely to earn the side of caution and stop these children from taking these medicine in the first place. I think that it's creating a situation where they're likely to bias that rhetoric, and we told you right from the very beginning, once the doubt is created in terms of the government and government's healthcare policies, it's hard before they come back by the government to look like it's a good to any comeback by the government. It just seems defensive, and therefore it doesn't necessarily create that good amount of discourse, but rather it becomes a destructive discourse under this when that happens. They said about this, what they then said is that this fear is rational and therefore it's okay to happen. Even if it may be rational and taking that best case scenario, we told you about the potential harms that it causes. How the harm isn't necessarily on the people making the choice, but rather on the children themselves. Or secondly, it also harms those around the children and the society in general, and also how this is a cross-generational harm and when the harms can exist on a long-term basis. When you consider the fact that these harms in itself is something so problematic, we told you even by taking that best case scenario, there is a justification to make sure that these actions are criminalized because they're creating a harmful effect in society. We also told you even on the other side of the house, you can have good discourse happening through policy reviews happening between the governments and the medical experts, and that's something that we can also guarantee on the other side of the house. They didn't necessarily give us any reason why these laymen had to be involved, other than to say it regards towards them as well, right? But we told you that when states have the moral responsibility to protect the public safety, and when these discourses is something that goes against the state's duty to protect the public safety in the first place, and when the ability of the state to protect society is damaged, we saw the criminalization in itself then becomes okay. Even though they told us about individual freedom, body autonomy, expression, and so on, and they used the intent and action, the criteria, we told you also in response that these are criteria for reactive justice to happen, and not necessarily for preventive justice in the first place. Therefore, you don't, when cases of Holocaust denial laws, you don't necessarily look at intent and action as well, but you ban it even if these people may have good intent, because we recognize the effect that it could have on society, and therefore, and how it could damage society, and the role of government to keep that society safe. We told you why these are cases when the criminal justice system can be also used in a preventive manner. For those reasons, we also actually told you what vaccine denials are, how it harms society, and how it goes against the law to create a safe society. And for those reasons, we're very happy to propose.
Just before I invite the teams to leave the room, can we just have one more big round of applause for both teams for an excellent debate? Thank you very much. Please cross the floor, shake hands, make friends. Go straight back to the hall, and the results.